Right. Good morning. This is a recorded version of the lesson that I gave today. I will be not speeding through, but I'll be going through some of it a little bit more quickly since I don't have an audience this time. So if you're watching this after school or just after the fact, anytime I am asking you to do something, you can just pause the video at that point and then unpause it when you're ready to move on. Okay, so that way the video is a little bit shorter and it's easier for you to deal with, right? But as far as content, the content will be the same as what was covered in class today, right? So the first thing that I want to do is to draw your attention to the assignments that we have coming up. Okay, so under classwork, you'll notice that there's the back to school category has quite a few more things added to it compared to before. The two things that I want to draw your attention to are the scavenger hunt activity and the student information sheet. Okay, so for the scavenger hunt activity, and just any activity in general, when you get to it, if you click on it, there'll be this button here. This is the activity itself. So when you click on that, it'll open it up. Okay, so the scavenger hunt activity is done on Google Slides. And I want you to think about Google Slides as being a digital worksheet. Okay, obviously, since we're doing class online, I can't just pass out worksheets and have you write on a piece of paper anymore. So I came up with multiple ways to try to give that same experience, but online, on digital, right? So instead of writing in answers, you will type them or use the shape and line tools to draw onto your Google Slides, your worksheet. Instead of cutting and pasting and gluing stuff like we would for like a cut and paste activity, you can click and drag things around the screen. So in order to complete the scavenger hunt, you will need to be able to navigate your email, Google Classroom, and other digital websites. So this assignment is a way for you to get used to Google Slides and also a way for you to just become a little more familiar with the tools that we're using for digital learning. So I'm just going to go through the instructions so you understand. So this next slide is primarily about your email. I know the Griner Way second period activity said that you're supposed to use Gmail. I'm not sure why they did that because you can't use Gmail. I can't use Gmail. To access your student email, you need to use Outlook. And so I've linked that in multiple places, but just in case, I put it here also. So you can copy and paste this link here from the instructions, or if you click the link, this little button pops up and you can click this and that'll open your email, which I won't click it because I don't want y'all to see my email, but you just click that and then you can get to it. So if it's your first time, you might have to log in. So for username, you just put in your student ID number. Do not put @dallasisd.org. So you do not want that. You just want the number by itself. So if your student ID number is 0000000, that's all you put. 0000000, right? For your password, it's the same password you've been using to log into your Chromebook. Whatever it is you use to turn your computer on, log into the Chromebook, that's the same password you use for this. So once you log into that, you will see that this morning, so Thursday morning, I guess, I sent an email with the subject line scavenger hunt email. So let me open that up real quick. So your Outlook will look a little different from mine because I have set it to, I changed the theme so that it's a little bit nicer to look at. So yours will not look exactly like this, but it's similar enough. So I understand that y'all get a lot of emails right now because every single time one of us teachers posts something on Google Classroom, it pings you, it sends you an email. So I'm sure you have like a cajillion emails. It might be hard for you to scroll and find mine. So the nice thing is you can use the search feature. So if you click on this little search bar here, make sure that you're searching in the inbox. I just clicked drafts so that y'all can't see all my emails because that's private, but change to inbox. And then you just type scavenger hunt. Make sure you spell it right. And then this will pop up. Okay, it'll have the title, subject hunt email. It starts with good morning. Please don't delete this email, blah, 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 blah. So you'll need to open that in order to answer the questions on the scavenger hunt slide. Okay, so after that, it will ask you to reply. So after you read the email and answer these questions, make sure you reply to my email so I can make sure you understand how to do that. Right, that's important. Okay, so next slide. is about Google Classroom. If you're watching this video right now, then you got it off of Google Classroom, so you know where that is. You just need to answer a couple of questions. The last thing is that I want to make sure that you know how to take screenshots and attach pictures. So it gives you some instructions on how to do that. And you're going to need to put a screenshot right here on the slide. If you don't know how to take a screenshot, you go back to our classwork, scroll to the bottom, and there's a section that says Digital Learning Tutorials. You want to click this one that says Chromebook Keyboard Shortcuts, and you click this link. And actually the very first thing that comes up teaches you how to take a screenshot. So you can take a screenshot of the whole screen, or if you do Shift Control window, a little rectangle clicker thing will come up so you can select a smaller part of your screen to just take a screenshot of. And so whichever way you do that, I think a window pops up and it'll ask if you would like to save or edit your screenshot or all that stuff. Once you have it saved, you'll come back to this, insert, image, upload from computer. I believe on Chromebooks, your screenshots get saved to your downloads folder. So if you can't find it, it should be there. I've had several students finish this assignment already and they were able to find it there. So if you can't, just let me know and I'll help you out. Okay, that's it for this slide. The last two slides are dealing more with the Google Slides tools and less about looking at stuff. So this next one says, how do you spell my name? And it's getting you to use the line tool or the shape tool. So there's two ways you could do this. You could draw a circle like this around the correct answer. I think it automatically fills it in as gray, so you need to change this. So this little fill here, change it to transparent. Transparent means that you can see through it. There's no background. That way you can just see the circle like that. Another way, and I think the easier way to do it, is if you see this is the line tool. That's what I drew a picture of here. If you click this little arrow next to the line tool, there's a version that says scribble. So with this, you can draw whatever shape you want. You just have to click and drag. And you can click and drag a circle like this. Okay. Giving you a hint right now, that is not the correct answer. Please do not spell my name that way. Okay, so that's that slide. The last slide is clicking and dragging these different things. So I have all of these little squares with words on them. There's a line here that'll help you line them up. So you just need to click and drag them into the right order. Of course, there might be one or two different correct answers as long as it makes sense. You don't have to put them on this line. If you want to put them below, that's fine. I just put that there as a guide. So you'll notice that as I'm dragging, these little red lines come up. That is Google Slides' little grid snap feature. So that makes sure that as you're dragging, it'll kind of click them to be in place so they'll all line up. And that can help you too. This is not the correct answer. If it goes a little off the screen, that's fine. Or you could just put less space in between the words. But I was just clicking so you could see what it looks like, but that's how you do that. So I know it looks 6 pages sounds like a lot, but if you just work through this, it shouldn't take you more than 5-10 minutes to do this, right? And then when you're done with it, just make sure that it's been saved and then you can turn it in. Okay, so that's the scavenger hunt activity. That is due on Monday. So as a note, in general, when I assign things in class, they will be due 2 class days later. So today's Thursday. If it was due 2 days later, then I would be saying it's due Saturday, but since we're not in school Saturday, Sunday, then I moved it to Monday. So that's why these 2 activities are due Monday and Tuesday. So in this class, I do not do homework. Any assignment that I give you time in class to work on it. Okay, you should have more than enough time to finish as long as you're doing stuff in class. Now, if you're goofing off, you're just pretending to work, but you're not doing anything, then it will turn into homework because you will have to finish it on your own time. And that's unfortunately, that's your problem, not my problem. If you finish it in class, you work on what you're supposed to. When I give you that time, you should be able to finish everything, no problem. Okay. So the other assignment that's due on Monday is this student information sheet. And so here I'm going to pause and make sure that you have the Kami extension installed, okay? Because you will need Kami in order to take notes and to complete a lot of these little assignments, all right? So I need you to, if you don't already have it open your web browser and look over here in the upper right. hopefully you should already see this little K button here. It looks like a little, oops, didn't mean to click that. It looks like a little K little circle with a K in it. Okay, and that means you've got Cami and it's ready. If you don't, you should click this little puzzle button that's right next to it, or just in this little area here. And you should see Cami in your list, because if you're using one of the school's Chromebooks, Cami should already be installed for you. You just need to add it up here. So you'll scroll, I don't know what yours looks like, but you should have some extensions. Look for the one that says Cami, and then you click this little white pin, and then you'll see it gets added to the window up here. If you are not using one of the school computers, and should be very few of you. So far today, I've only had one student that needed to, but if you need to, then you need to install the Cami extension first. And if that happens, you let me know and I'll walk you through it, okay? Because it's a little complicated, but that's only if you are using your own computer or an iPad or something. If you are on a school Chromebook, like you kept the one that the school gave you last year, you just need to push this puzzle button, click this pin, and you got it. Okay? So once you have Cami, now you can work on these Cami assignments. So here's the student information sheet. You click it, it'll pop up this PDF, all right? In order for you to edit this PDF and work on it, you need to click this button here that says Open with Cami. So you do that, it might take a little while to load. If it takes a really long time to load, maybe try closing it and trying opening it again. You know, it's a lot of people using it right now, so who knows. So when this pops up for the first time for you, your toolbar is probably going to be on the left. I like mine on the right because I'm right-handed, so I'm always looking over here, but whatever you're comfortable with is fine. Okay. All Cami really is an app that lets you edit these PDFs. And so if you don't use Cami, then you're not going to be able to fill this in. If you just download the file, you won't be able to fill it in. You won't be able to take notes. That'll be a huge problem. So if you're having issues getting Cami to open, please let me know. Send me a message, send me a text, and I'll help you out. Okay. So in order to fill this out, there's two ways you can do it. The first way is to use the drawing tool. If you have a stylus, or if you want to use like the touch screen on your Chromebook to write, you can. So you would just write in the answers. Like, I'm using a mouse. Well, my handwriting is pretty bad even without a mouse, but you know, anyway. You can use the drawing tool like that. If you just find typing easier, or you have bad handwriting like me or anything like that, you can use the text box feature. So you'll just click text box, and then wherever you want text to show up, you'll just click it. When you click it for the first time, you'll see up here this little toolbar pops up, and then you can change the font, the size, all that stuff here. The nice thing about Cami is that once you've changed the color and the size and all that, the font, it remembers that. So from now on, every time you type in a text box, it'll use those same settings. So you don't have to keep clicking and changing the font over and over and over. It remembers that for you. Okay, so you would just fill all of this in. All of them are a fill in except for this one spot here where it wants you to circle yes or no. So you just circle yes or no. So you'll just answer those. At the very bottom, it says, I acknowledge that I have read and understand the policies and expectations for Miss Nguyen's mathematics class as according to the syllabus. So that means I read the syllabus, I understand. I understand that it is my responsibility to contact Miss Nguyen if I have any questions or concerns, okay? I want to help you. I want to make sure that you are getting the lessons, that you are able to access all this and use your technology. I can't help you if I don't know that you're having a problem. This is very different online. In class, I could see if you weren't using your Chromebook or your Chromebook doesn't work. I could just look at you and see. Online, it's harder for me to tell, especially if you're not logged into the Zoom or you have your camera, aimed at the ceiling or whatever. So if you are having a problem, you need to let me know, and then I'll do everything I can to help you. I promise. Okay, no judgment. But that's your responsibility. Okay. I understand that I will bear the consequences for my actions or inactions, and that my grades are earned by me, not given by the teacher. Cannot stress this enough. I have students that complain to me, why did you give me a 65? I do not give grades, you earn them. You got a 65 because you got 65% of that assignment correct or something. you know? So if you want a higher grade, like you get a 65, you don't like it, you can redo, you can fix assignments, you know, you can retake quizzes, you know, I'll work with you and you can raise your grade up. The only kids that ever fail my class are the ones that never do anything. They don't finish assignments, they blow off quizzes. Of course, you're not going to do well. But if you are willing to learn, you're willing to do better, then I will do everything I can to help you. Okay? Promise. So once you understand all that, you'll use your little drawing tool, draw your signature there, and then that's it. It doesn't show up on my screen because I'm in teacher mode, but there should be a turn in button here in the upper right, so you can click that once you're done with it. If you're not, you can hit this save button and then just come back to this later. So once you have written on it and saved, so here's an example, so it saves. The next time you go to your classwork, you open it up, it saves everything that you've written on here, see? So it'll go right where it left off. The thing with Kami is that it should automatically save as you go, but if it just, I would just, to be safe, when you're about to close the file, just hit the save button and make sure it saves before you go. I would hate for you to put in all this effort and then just erase everything because you didn't save it, right? So that's important. All right, so that's the student information sheet. This is also due on Monday, and this is due end of the day Monday. So stuff is always due a little bit right before midnight. So you'll have time on Monday to work on this as well. Okay. I mean, if you want to finish it early so you have some more, little more free time, then by all means, go for it. Okay. So one more thing. I mean, this just really only applies if you're watching this at a very specific time, but this is the classroom respect agreement from yesterday. At the end of the day today, I'm going to round up all of the most popular ones and put them into a document for us to all sign tomorrow. So if you have any more ideas or last minute things, and you need to make sure that you add them to the Padlet today. So now we're going to go ahead and do our notes. So we're leaving this back to the school section and going to where it says for 6 weeks. I know these two look similar, but you specifically want the one that says notes. So you click this notes, click this where it says Griddables notes, and then you can open it with Kami. Okay. So there's 3 pages to this, and we're going to go through this together. The first page is about dealing with fractions. Okay, so while we're doing this, another thing that you need to have open is the calculator. So let me go ahead and share my whole screen so you can see what it looks like. Yeah. So the way I like to have it is I put my calculator here, and then my, Kami, my notes here. And then in the upper left-hand corner for you guys, this is where you can put Zoom. You can put me right here. That way you can see me, you can see the calculator, you can see your notes all at the same time, right? So for the calculator, what I would like everyone to use is the Desmos calculator. If you need to get to that, it's under classwork, important. It's the second link, it says Desmos calculator. There's also a link to this from the school or my class website as well. If you have a different calculator that you prefer to use, or you have your own, calculator, then that's fine. Just make sure you can access all the same tools. If you're trying to use your iPhone or just phone calculator, just be careful because you need to be able to use like square roots and fractions and stuff, and that might not be available on the basic calculator, or you can't backspace, and that's an issue too. If you just want to maximize your screen real estate, then you can open this Desmos calculator on your phone and then have your phone here, have your phone here and then work on your stuff on the screen. That's fine too. For assignments and notes, I'm going to assume that you're using the Desmos calculator, so it'll explain like using those buttons and stuff like that. So if you're not using it, you need to figure out how to use those same functions on your calculator. And if you need help with that, I can help, but just make it easy and use this calculator. Okay, so I'm going to switch back because I know that the screen gets small when I have the whole desktop showing, and I want to make sure you can see the notes and everything okay. All right. So again, with this, you can use the text box or you can write using the drawing tool if you would like to. These are your notes. So if whatever is easier for you to read, or just if you want to decorate them, feel free to change the color, the font, whatever works for you. I've seen some really creative notes today already. Okay. So the main thing with fractions that I'm concerned with for us is making sure that you understand how to convert between fractions and decimals using our calculator. Because in 8th grade, now that you're able to use the calculator on the STAR test and stuff, it's really important that you know how to use it. And as we move through 8th grade math, there's going to be lots of math where you have to use a calculator to do it. Okay, so we're going to be more and more comfortable with the calculator as we go. So here's the first section. It says to change a fraction into a decimal and vice versa. You need to type the fraction into the Desmos calculator, and then it'll display the decimal automatically. You will click this little fraction button to the right of the decimal to change a decimal back into a fraction. If the button doesn't show up, then that particular decimal cannot be changed into a fraction. Let me show you what that looks like. Here's a calculator. So let's say we have a fraction that's 1/2, right? To type it, there's two ways. The first way is to click this little fraction button. Then you can put in the numerator, that's the top number, and the denominator, that's the bottom number, like that. Okay. You can also do 1 divided by 2 and it'll automatically turn it into a decimal, but I think just simplify things, get in the habit of, you see a fraction, you need to type it, click the fraction button. So you'll see when you type in 1/2 that it automatically already gives you the decimal right here. It says 0.5. So you don't have to press enter, you don't have to press anything. It already changes it into a decimal for you. To change it back into a fraction, you're going to push this and it turns into 1/2. Okay, so as you're working, when you have a decimal, if you need to change it back into a fraction, you push that. There you go. Let's say you're working and you get a decimal and that button goes away. See how there's no fraction button anymore? That means you've got a number that cannot be changed into a fraction. That happens sometimes. Okay, so don't freak out if that button goes away. All right? Okay. Here in the notes, I also just put a screenshot so you can see. So when you're looking at these notes later, it'll be here for you so you can see it. So to type a fraction, you just click this button and then you'll type in the numerator, that's the top number, and the denominator, that's the bottom number. Okay, next section. This is dealing with mixed fractions. This is something that you have to be really careful about, okay? A mixed fraction is a number that has a whole number and a fraction together. So in this case, you've got 1 and 1/2 as our example. 1 is a whole number. 1/2 is a fraction, okay? There'll be times where you have to convert them or when you have to add them or they're in, equations, all sorts of stuff. So you need to know how to type a mixed fraction into your calculator. So you need to think about a mixed fraction as having two parts. There's the whole number and the fraction. And you will type that as the whole number plus the fraction. So for example, 1 and 1/2 would be 1 plus 1/2. If you do not write the plus, your calculator will think that you're multiplying them, because remember, if you have two numbers next to each other, it'll be multiplication. So when you're typing it, show you in the calculator, you would just type 1 plus fraction 1/2. If you forget the plus, bad things will happen. So please make sure you put that plus sign there. Okay. So then once you have that, you can take it as a decimal. You can change it back into a improper fraction. Okay. So an improper fraction, that's just a fancy term that means that the numerator is bigger than the denominator. So the top number is bigger than the bottom number. 3 is bigger than 2. So this is an improper fraction. Right, so that's the 3 different types of numbers that we're dealing with here. We've got whole numbers, where it's perfect. There's no decimals, there's no fractions. We have mixed fractions, where there's a whole number and a fraction together. Improper fractions are fractions where the top is a bigger number than the bottom. And then we have decimals, which is there's no more fractions, now there's a decimal point. Okay, and so you have to be able to switch between all those things. All right, the next section here, you're going to try it on your own, except I made a mistake, and number 4 is exactly the same as number 2. If you can, if you remember how to round, then great, you can round and round your answer. If you have forgotten how to round, that's fine. We're going to do that today anyway, so stick with me. Okay, so I'm going to give you, or in class, I would have given you a couple of minutes to do this on your own. If you would like to try this on your own, go ahead and pause the video here, try it, and then you can see my answer, my explanation. Okay, you really want to try to do it on your own first, because otherwise, if you only know it when I'm giving it to you, then, you know, you have to take tests by yourself. I can't do this on your test. Okay. All right, so hopefully you paused already and you did that on your own. So here's my walkthrough of these answers. So number 1 says to convert 2/7 into a decimal and to round that to the nearest 10. All right, so you need to go to your calculator and type in fraction 2/7. And you get this really long decimal, 0.285714 something, right? So if you round that to the nearest 10th, it should be 0.3. If you don't understand how I did that, don't worry about it. I'm going to go over rounding a little bit later. Okay. Number 2, you need to change 5 3/5 into an improper fraction. All right. So let's type into our calculator. Remember, it's whole number plus fraction. The whole number is 5 plus the fraction 3/5. And then we just click this fraction button to change it back into our improper fraction. So our improper fraction is 28/5. Okay. Lastly, it says convert 8/9 into a decimal and then round to the nearest 10th. So this is exactly like we did with number 1. And maybe if you got number 1 wrong, pause here, try number 3 again before we move on. Always give yourself a chance. Okay, so if you paused and you're coming back to it, let's look at this, 8/9. Okay, so let's clear that. Fraction 8/9. So you get 0.888888888, and so on. So you will just, to round that to the nearest 10th, it would be 0.9. And again, I will explain rounding a little bit more later if you don't remember. Okay? So take a second, write all this stuff down. And now let's move on to page 2. So page 2 is some notes about Griddables. Okay, so for here, there's a lot of words to write in, so I would just use the text box. A griddable is a unique type of problem on standardized tests such as the STAR test, which you have to take. Griddables are different. Oh, sorry, let me step back. When I say griddable, this is a griddable. This thing here with all the numbers and circles and stuff, this is a griddable, all right? So griddables are different from multiple choice questions because there are no choices given. Normally with multiple choice, you could still guess if you have no idea. You can't really guess on a griddable. You could try, you're probably not going to get it. Either you know the answer and you can bubble it all in, or you don't. So the correct answer could be positive or it could be negative. If your answer is negative, it's less than 0, then you must bubble in the negative sign on the left. What do I mean by that? See this? This right here. You need to bubble this in if your answer is negative, or else your answer will default to a positive number. Okay, So I don't know why the test makers put this little positive bubble here, because you don't really need to bubble that in unless you're the type of person who just loves bubbling stuff in. If your answer is negative, you need to bubble in this negative bubble. If you do not bubble that in, then the test scanner will just say that your answer is positive. Okay, and so that's really important. If the answer is supposed to be -5, then you better bubble in -5, because if you do not do that, if you just bubble it in like this, then what you've put in is +5, and there's no partial credit. Either it's all right or it's all wrong. Okay, so the Griddables have a decimal point in a fixed spot. Means is, you see here, there's 4 digits before the decimal point and 2 digits after. It's always going to be like that. Every Griddable on the STAR test is going to look just like this one. So make sure you have correctly rounded your answers and put the digits in the correct slots relative to the decimal point. Okay, what does that mean? That means if your answer is 10.5, okay, this is what you need to have bubbled in. Here's the 10, here's the 5, right? Okay, this is what you want to have bubbled in. If you bubble in 10.5 like this, this is wrong. This is not 10.5 anymore. This is 105. Okay, so it's very important that you put the numbers into the correct slots and use that decimal point to guide you. I've seen this happen so many times. Let's say the answer is 9. So the answer is 9. This is what you would be bubbling in, right? Yes. I've seen many students over the years that they think, oh, well, I need to put it in all the way on the right. So they put the 9 here. This is wrong. This is actually 0.09. Okay. So this is very important. Okay. Because like I said, there's no partial credit, and this is really sad. I've seen a lot of times on Griddables, students, they do the math correctly, they know the answer, but they get it wrong because they didn't fill in the Griddable right. And that breaks my heart. That's just a really sad way to lose points. All right, so just make sure that you're careful. You put your numbers into the right place. Okay, so here's another important point. You do not have to fill in all the boxes, and you do not have to fill in extra zeros unless they affect the value of your answer. So 10.5, I know I keep coming back to that. This 0 right here is very important because it's the difference between being a 10 and being a 1 or being a 100. You know, these zeros, they're placeholders. They're important in telling you what this number is, right? On the other hand, so now I've changed it to 100.5. So on the other hand, these zeros that I'm putting in red, these are not important. Whether the 0 is here or not, it's still 100. 100.5 is exactly the same as 100.50, right? So these are not important zeros. You do not have to fill them in. It's not going to be wrong if you do. It's just kind of a waste of time on your part. I mean, again, if you're the type of person who just loves bubbling things in, then whatever floats your boat, go ahead. But you don't have to. If it doesn't affect your answer, then you do not have to bubble those in. Just make sure you get the important ones and put them in the right place. Okay. So lastly, we have these 2 arrows that are pointing to things, right? So this first arrow is pointing to this little dot here. So take a second. What is that? Okay, that is the decimal point. Okay. Now what is this pointing to? The second arrow. This little thingy here, what is that? Okay, that is the negative sign. These are two of the most important parts of these Griddables that you have to remember where they are and make sure you're putting them in the right place. Or, yeah, putting everything in the right place around them. All right, almost done. We're on the last page. Okay, So here's what I was promising that I would do earlier. We're going to talk about rounding. Okay, hopefully you already learned how to do this last year. If you didn't, or you don't remember, that's okay. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So let's work on this together. Okay. So as far as 8th grade goes, there's 3 types of rounding that we are most concerned with. There is rounding to the nearest whole number, rounding to the nearest 10th digit, and rounding to the nearest 100th. Okay, so I'm going to go in that order through those things. Okay, so to round to the nearest whole number, you need to look at the digit immediately to the right of the decimal point. So look at the number, find the decimal point, and look at the number on the right, the first number to the right of the decimal point. This is known as the 10th digit, and that's very important. Okay, so whatever number is to the left of the decimal point, that's what you're trying to round. Either it's going to round up or it's going to stay the same. You're looking at the 10th digit to figure out whether to round it or not. Okay, so if that number in the 10th digit is less than 5, so 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, you need to round down. For example, round 5.4 to the nearest whole number. Okay, 5 is the whole number. Okay, this is the number that's to the left of the decimal point. So we need to figure out, are we rounding 5 up or are we rounding 5 down? So we need to look at the number next to it on the right. This is a 4. This is a 4, it's less than 5, so we need to round down. When we round down, that just means that 5.4 turns into just 5. Okay, the reason we call it round down is because 5 is smaller than 5.4. The number is going down. But when you round down, the number you're rounding actually stays the same. I know it's a little confusing, okay? But 5.4 rounds down to just 5. You just drop this 0.4. Okay? If that number in the 10th digit is 5 or greater, so it's bigger than 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then you need to round up. It's the opposite. Okay. Example. Round 7.8 to the nearest whole number. Okay, so let's circle this again. Here's the whole number. This is to the left of the decimal point. So our whole number is 7. Either we're going to round it up or we're going to leave it alone. So we're going to look at the number next to it on the right. This is an 8. That's bigger than 4. So that's 5 or greater. That's an 8. So that means we're going to round up. Okay. 7, you go up a step, it turns into 8. So 7.8 rounds to 8. Okay, and so we've dropped the 0.8 entirely, so this just goes up to 8. Okay, and you'll have time to practice this, so if you're still not 100% with me, it's okay, we're going to get there. All right, so that's rounding to the nearest whole number. Now let's look at rounding to the nearest 10th. Okay, so we now need to look at the number immediately to the right of the 10th digit. The 10th digit is now the number that we're trying to round, so to figure out if we need to round it or not, we're going to look at the number next to it. Okay, if the number is less than 5, round down. Same old, same old. If the number is 5 or greater, so bigger than 4, then we round up. Same Z's. Okay, so the thing with rounding is you're doing the same thing. It's just depending on whether we're rounding to the nearest whole number, 10th, or 100th. It changes what number you're looking at and which number is being rounded, but the general process is the same every time. Right, so for example, round 10.415 to the nearest 10th. First, we need to find the 10th digit. Here's the decimal point. Here's 1 over, so this is the 10th digit. So this number is either going to go up or it's going to stay the same. Now this stuff on the left is going to stay the same. We're not going to touch that. So this 10 point will stay the same. When we're rounding to the nearest 10th, we're figuring out what do we do with this 4. Okay, so this stuff, just make sure this stays the same here. So the number 1 to the right of the 10th digit is this 1. This number is less than 5. So that means we're going to round down. So this 4 stays the same. 1 5 here next to it goes away, it's gone, it goes down. So rounding 10.415 to the nearest tenth means 10.4. Next example says round 22.562 to the nearest tenth. Here's the decimal point. Here is the number right after the decimal point. That is the 10th digit. So again, the 22 point stays the same. We're trying to figure out what to do with this 5. Is it going to go up or is it going to stay as a 5? So we look at the number next to it. This is a 6. That's bigger than 4. So we need to round up. 1 up from 5 is 6. So rounding this would be 22.6. Okay, we don't want anything else after it. If we're rounding to the nearest tenth, there should just be one number here. Okay, almost done. So finally, we're going to look at rounding to the nearest hundredth. And that's this whole column here. So look at the digit immediately to the right of the 10th digit. This is known as the hundredth digit. That's a hard word to say, hundredth. And Vietnamese does not really have a TH sound like that, so you can imagine how much fun it is for me to say. Okay, when rounding to the nearest hundredth, your decimal should have 2 digits. So there should be 2 numbers after the decimal. When you're rounding to the nearest tenth, there should be 1 number after the decimal. When you're rounding to the nearest whole number, there should be 0 numbers after the decimal, because whole number means there's no decimal, right? So remember back to that griddable? You see here how there's 2 digits after the decimal point? That means that when you're doing griddable problems, the most you ever have to round to is the nearest hundredth. So either whole number, tenth, or hundredth. Once you're not going to do thousandth or anything past that. Okay. So in order to round, this part is going to sound very familiar. Look at the number immediately to the right of the hundredth digit. If that number is less than 5, round down. If that number is 5 or greater, or bigger than 4, then round up. Okay? Same as before. So here's our examples. It says round 44.047 to the nearest hundredth. So first, we need to identify the hundredth digit. So that's 2 after the decimal point. Here's the decimal point. This is the 10th digit, the 0. This 4 is the 100th digit. So we need to figure out whether we're going to round this up or leave it alone. So that means all these numbers to the left of the 4, 44.0, this stays the same. So you know your answer is going to be 44.0 something. So it's our job now to figure out what that something is. In order to do that, we look at this 7. Okay, this is our clue to see whether we're rounding up or down, because it's the number to the right of the 100th digit. It's a 7. That's bigger than 5, so we need to round up. 1 up from 4 is 5. Let me write that a little nicer. So that means our answer, erase this, is just 44.05. Okay. And on this one, maybe pause for a second, try it on your own before you push play. I'll give you a second, try it on your own. Okay, so hopefully you gave it a shot. So it says round 3.2659 to the nearest hundredth. Step 1, find the hundredth digit. So here's the decimal point, here's the 10th digit, and here's the 6. This is the second number after the decimal point, so this is our 100th digit. Okay, so that means everything to the left of it is going to stay the same. So we know our answer is going to be 3.2 something. Right? So we need to figure out what that something is to get our answer. Okay, here's a 6. The number right to the right of it is a 5. This is a little tricky. 5, remember, if it's 5 or greater than 5, then we need to round up. So 5 is bigger than 4, basically, so we have to round up. 1 up from 6 is 7. So our answer is 3.27. Okay, so here on the Griddable, just to drive the point home, I got 2 different colors of arrows and circles. What is this? What place is this? What digit is this in red? Right? It's the first one after the decimal point. This is the 10th digit. It's also known as the 10th place, if you want to call it that instead. Okay. So if that's the 10th place, 10th digit, what is this one? This is 2 away from the decimal point. This is the 100th digit. 100th digit. Okay. And there you have it. Okay, so for these notes, they're your notes. Okay, I will periodically do notebook checks. Make sure you have all this filled in. So make sure you have it saved. And then again, on your screen, there should be a turn in button here and you can hit turn in. Since these are notes, it's not really an assignment. So turn in feature, you can think of it more as this is for yourself. Okay, so you can know that you have it finished. And if it's not finished, then you can wait to turn it in until it's done, right? Just make sure you save. So the next thing, the last thing that I wanted everyone in class to do is to practice. So in order for us to practice rounding, we're going to use IXL. So what you need to do is you need to open Clever in your web browser. Hopefully, I mean, if you're using the school Chromebook especially, you should already have, be logged into Clever. It's just clever.com. Once you start typing in Clever, your browser will probably already complete it for you. So yours will not look exactly the same as this because I'm a teacher and I'm in teacher mode, but what you want to do is you want to then click on My Classroom. Click on this one, whatever one that says Miss Nguyen Math 8. And then when you click on that, you'll see all these different little apps. You want the one that says IXL, should be the last one. So when you click on that, will automatically log you into IXL. That's the nice part of it. Yours will look a little different when you log in because again, I'm in teacher mode, but just as long as you are on IXL and logged in, you're good. It'll automatically log you in if you go through Clever. If for some reason you really can't use Clever, let me know and I can give you your username and password for IXL, but I mean, I haven't had, none of my students today have had issues with that, so you should be able to get in just fine. So once you get in, you need to go to this little search bar here at the top and you're going to type in R5J. R is in Rocky, 5 like the number 5, and J is in Jack. Okay, when you type that in, you'll see a little drop-down menu come up. You obviously were not doing first grade language arts. The very first thing that is on the list says round decimals. Click that. And then it'll start giving you these practice problems. You'll have to round to the nearest 100th, 10th, whole number, all that stuff we did today. Please make sure you are on the correct activity. R5J, round decimals. If you're doing anything else, that is the wrong lesson. As you work through these problems, your SMART score here is going to change. That just means how much of this skill you've mastered. So every time you get one right, this is going to go up. Every time you get one wrong, it'll go down. Your goal is to get to 100% for mastery. Okay, since you're watching this video after school, don't feel like you have to do this right now. I will give you some time on Friday to work on this, but if you missed class today, then you should probably do some of it now, or you might not have enough time tomorrow. Okay, so that is the IXL. All right, so that is pretty much it for the class today. I just wanted to make sure at the end to remind you about the schedule. So tomorrow, today is an A day, tomorrow is a B day, so make sure you're going to your even numbered classes and remember to go to 6th period before 4th period. I know it's confusing. And then starting tomorrow, we will start doing warm-ups at the beginning of class, just mostly to review the stuff that we just did the day before, just to make sure that you don't forget what we've learned as we go. So please make sure you are on time to our Zoom meetings, because if you are not in the Zoom call, right at the beginning, you're going to lose time to work on your warm up, and those are a grade. So please make sure you come in on time. If you're like a minute or two late, it's fine. I mean, it takes a second to connect. I get that, but you cannot come into class 20 minutes late. You have to come to these Zooms, okay? Or you're going to miss out on all of this stuff. All right. Please let me know if you need any help or extra instructions on anything. I'm always happy to help. Text me, send me an email now that you know how, and all that stuff. Otherwise, I will see you in class.